At 3 o'clock in the morning, the rain was beating hard against the windows of a quiet home in Northern Virginia, the kind of rain that makes the world feel smaller and heavier. That was the moment Claire Whitmore felt the first contraction. It was sharp, sudden, and deep enough to steal the air from her lungs. She pressed her hand against her stomach, trying to stay calm, telling herself this was normal. She was in her final month. She had prepared for this. Then the second contraction came faster, stronger, and closer than it should have. Claire pushed herself upright on the bed. Her body trembled, and then she felt it. Warmth running down her legs. Her water had broken. She was alone. Her husband Ryan Whitmore was supposed to be on base. An emergency training drill he had said earlier that night. He kissed her forehead, told her to rest, and promised he would keep his phone close. Claire reached for her phone with shaking fingers. The screen lit up with their wedding photo, Ryan in uniform, confident and composed. Claire smiling, believing she had chosen the right man. She pressed call. The line connected almost instantly. But what she heard on the other end was not the sound of radios or footsteps or orders being shouted. It was breathing. Close, uneven breathing. And a woman's voice, low and intimate, far too close to the phone. Then Ryan's voice followed. Familiar, soft, not meant for her. Claire froze. For a single suspended second, even the pain in her body seemed to stop. She did not hang up. She stared at the screen. Call in progress. Something inside her went cold and clear. Her thumb moved slowly, deliberately, and turned on call recording. She listened long enough to understand everything. Then the call ended. Claire did not cry. She did not scream. She saved the recording. And in that moment, as another contraction tore through her body, she understood one thing with terrifying certainty. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that had just entered her life. Before that night, before the rain, before the call, Claire Whitmore believed she had built a stable and respectable life. She was not a fragile woman. Claire was raised in a family that valued discipline, education, and emotional restraint. She learned early how to think before reacting and how to solve problems without drama. People often described her as calm, reliable, and slightly distant. She accepted that description without protest. Claire met Ryan Whitmore in her early 30s. He was everything her world respected. A military officer, disciplined, focused, and ambitious. He spoke little but carried himself with confidence. With Ryan she felt safe. Not excited, not swept away, but secure. Their marriage was not loud or passionate. It was structured, predictable, built on routines and shared responsibilities. Claire believed that kind of marriage lasted. When she became pregnant, she thought it would bring them closer. A child would soften the sharp edges, create warmth where there had only been order. Ryan became more attentive during her pregnancy. He prepared her meals, reminded her to rest, and insisted she drink a special herbal tea every night. He said it was good for the baby. Claire trusted him without hesitation. She adjusted her schedule, gave up work events, and slowed her pace. Her body felt heavier, more tired than she expected, but doctors said it was normal. Pregnancy was different for every woman. Claire told herself she was lucky. A healthy pregnancy, a respectable husband, a future that looked stable from the outside. She did not know she was already living inside a carefully managed illusion. Looking back later, she would realize the truth. Nothing had broken that night. It had already been cracking for months. She just had not known where to look. Ryan Whitmore was the kind of man people trusted without question. He spoke with restraint, dressed with precision, and carried himself like someone who had always been in control. In uniform he was admired. At home he was orderly and polite. He did not shout. He did not drink excessively. He did not look like a man capable of betrayal. To the outside world, Ryan was dependable. To his superiors he was efficient. To his family he was a source of pride. But to Claire there was always something slightly distant about him. Ryan valued control above all else. He needed his life to move according to plan. Schedules, rules, expectations. When things went his way he was calm. When they did not he withdrew emotionally instead of confronting problems directly. Claire mistook that silence for maturity. What she did not see at first was how deeply Ryan struggled with comparison. Growing up under pressure to perform, he learned to hide insecurity behind discipline. He feared failure more than he valued honesty. Marriage with Claire intensified that fear. She was intelligent, composed, and emotionally grounded. With her, Ryan often felt measured even when she never judged him. Her quiet confidence made his own uncertainty louder. Instead of communicating, Ryan sought escape. Not freedom but reassurance. Someone who would admire him without expectations. Someone who made him feel powerful without effort. That need did not come from love or desire alone. It came from weakness. And weakness left untreated does not disappear. It looks for somewhere else to live. Ryan did not wake up one day intending to destroy his marriage. He simply chose comfort over integrity, one small decision at a time. And by the time Claire felt the storm, it was already too late to stop it. Lena Brooks did not enter Ryan's life by accident. She appeared quietly at a formal event through mutual acquaintances, soft-spoken, attentive, and always listening. She never competed for attention, she waited for it to come to her. Lena was different from Claire in every visible way. Where Claire was composed, Lena was expressive. Where Claire was measured, Lena was warm and affirming. She asked questions that made Ryan feel important, and listened as if every word he said mattered deeply. Ryan did not notice when admiration slowly turned into dependency. Lena never criticized him. She never challenged his decisions. She praised his discipline, his ambition, his future. With her, Ryan was not a man living under expectations. He was a man being admired. That was the hook. Lena understood something Claire never needed to learn. People who crave control are often the easiest to manipulate. You only have to make them believe they are finally seen. Their relationship did not begin with desire, it began with validation. By the time it became physical, Ryan was already emotionally compromised. He had shared frustrations, doubts, and insecurities he never voiced at home. Lena listened and remembered everything. She was not reckless, she was patient. She never asked Ryan to leave his wife directly. She never forced ultimatums. Instead, she framed herself as the escape, the place where he could breathe without judgment. To Ryan, she was comfort. To Claire, she was invisible. But in the shadows, Lena was already positioning herself carefully, watching, waiting, learning where the cracks were deepest, and preparing to use them. The hospital lights were too bright and too cold. Claire Whitmore was rushed through the emergency entrance on a gurney as another contraction ripped through her body. Her breathing was shallow. Her hands were clenched so tightly her knuckles had turned white. The doctors spoke quickly, using words that sounded urgent and sharp. Fetal distress, unstable heart rate, emergency surgery. Someone asked where her husband was. Claire did not answer. She signed the consent form herself. Her handwriting was steady even though her body was shaking. In that moment she understood something clearly. Whatever happened next, she was facing it alone. The operating room doors closed and the world went quiet. Hours later, when Claire finally regained consciousness, she felt hollow and weak. The pain in her body was deep and constant, but it was not what frightened her. What frightened her was the silence. Her son had survived. The doctors told her he was stable, healthy, strong. But Claire had lost a dangerous amount of blood. The surgeon explained it carefully. There had been complications. Her body had been under unusual stress even before labor began. Claire listened without reacting. She did not cry when they brought her baby to her side. She held him gently, studying his tiny face, as if memorizing proof that he was real. At some point, her father-in-law, Richard Whitmore, arrived. He stood at the foot of her bed, looking older than she remembered. His posture was rigid, but his eyes betrayed shock and restrained anger. Ryan arrived later. Too late. He stood in the doorway with a pale face, offering explanations that no one asked for. His uniform was wrinkled, his voice unsteady. Richard did not speak to him. Instead, he looked at Claire and said only one sentence. "You are safe now." Claire nodded slowly. In that sterile room surrounded by machines and whispered conversations, something inside her shifted. She did not feel heartbreak. She felt clarity. This was not a marriage that needed fixing. This was a life she needed to protect. And the first thing she needed to protect was herself. Claire Whitmore did not argue. She did not raise her voice or demand explanations. She did not ask Ryan where he had been or who the other woman was. She did not need answers that would only insult her intelligence. When she was discharged from the hospital, Claire made one simple request. She did not return to the house she shared with her husband. Instead, she took her newborn son and moved into a temporary apartment arranged quietly with the help of her mother. No announcements, no confrontation, just distance. Ryan tried to explain. He sent messages asking to talk to clear misunderstandings. He said things were not what they looked like. He said stress made people act out of character. Claire listened once. Then she stopped responding. For the first time since their marriage, she allowed herself to be completely still. No problem solving, no fixing, no emotional labor. Only observation. She noticed how quickly Ryan became frustrated when he was not forgiven, how his concerns shifted from her health to his reputation, how often he mentioned what people would think if she did not come home. That told her everything she needed to know. Claire filed for divorce quietly and without drama. When Ryan finally confronted her in person demanding that she stop making a scene, Claire looked at him with calm, unfamiliar distance. "This is not a scene," she said. "This is a boundary." That sentence landed harder than any accusation. Ryan realized then that something irreversible had happened. Claire was no longer reacting. She was deciding. And once a woman like Claire Whitmore begins to decide, there is no argument strong enough to pull her backward. The marriage was already over. The truth was only beginning to surface. Recovery forced Claire Whitmore to slow down. In the quiet hours between feedings and restless sleep, she had time to think, not emotionally but analytically. Claire had always trusted patterns more than words. And something about the past months did not align. During her pregnancy, Ryan had been unusually attentive, not affectionate but precise. Every night at the same hour he prepared a cup of herbal tea. He insisted she drink it while it was warm. He said it came from a specialist and was good for circulation, strength, and the baby. At the time, Claire felt grateful. Now she felt uneasy. She remembered how exhausted she had been. Not normal pregnancy tiredness, but a deep, heavy fatigue that made her limbs feel weak. How often she felt dizzy, how her body never seemed to fully recover even after resting. Doctors had dismissed it as normal variation. But Claire knew her own body. She began asking quiet questions, reviewing medical notes, comparing timelines, the complications during birth, the unusual blood loss. Too many things lined up too neatly. Claire returned to the house once under the pretense of collecting baby items. She moved calmly, observed quietly. She found remnants of the herbs disposed in the garden compost exactly where Ryan had said they should go. She collected samples. Not out of fear. Out of certainty. Through academic contacts, she arranged a confidential analysis. No hospitals, no shared systems. Just data. When the report came back, Claire read it once, then again, more slowly. Certain compounds were present in levels unsafe for pregnant women, substances known to weaken the body and increase the risk of severe complications during childbirth. Claire sat down and closed her eyes. This was not negligence. This was not ignorance. Someone had known exactly what they were doing. And for the first time, Claire understood that the betrayal she faced was not emotional. It was calculated. The man she had trusted with her life had placed her and her unborn child in danger. Quietly, patiently, and deliberately. Instinct had become evidence. And evidence changes everything. The evidence did not bring Claire Whitmore panic. It brought her focus. Once she understood what had been done to her body, she stopped asking how it happened and began asking why. Accidents do not repeat themselves with precision. Care does not hide inside poison. Someone had planned this. Claire followed the trail slowly, not emotionally, methodically. She reviewed messages, timelines, and financial records she had once ignored. She noticed how Ryan's behavior shifted during the same period the herbal tea began. More secrecy, more pressure, more urgency for control. Then the name surfaced again. Lena Brooks. Claire learned that Lena had previously worked in a wellness clinic, not a licensed physician but close enough to understand how herbs interacted with the body, close enough to know which substances would not cause immediate alarm. The picture became clearer. This was not a woman acting out of jealousy. This was a woman calculating leverage. Claire confronted Ryan with none of the evidence. She watched him instead, the deflection, the avoidance, the fear beneath his anger. When she mentioned the tea, his face changed before he could stop himself. That was the answer. Ryan confessed only what he thought was safe, that Lena had suggested something to help Claire relax. that he never intended harm, that he trusted Lena. Claire did not argue. She understood something devastating in that moment. Ryan had not acted out of hatred. He had acted out of cowardice. He wanted the admiration Lena gave him. He wanted to escape the expectations of marriage. And when faced with a plan that allowed him to remove the obstacle without confrontation, he accepted it. He told himself it was harmless. Claire realized the most dangerous people are not those who hate you. They are those who want everything without consequences. By the time she walked away from that conversation, Claire knew this was no longer about divorce. This was about survival and justice. The truth no one expected was simple and horrifying. The man she married did not protect her. He used her silence. And that silence almost killed her. Claire Whitmore did not call the police immediately. She understood power better than that. Screaming accusations would only give Ryan time to prepare defenses and Lena time to disappear. Claire chose a different path. She chose structure. She contacted a lawyer recommended through professional circles, someone experienced, calm and precise. She presented only facts, medical reports, lab analysis, timelines, financial traces, nothing emotional, nothing speculative. The lawyer listened carefully and said one sentence that confirmed Claire had done the right thing. This is not a domestic dispute. This is a criminal matter. From that moment forward, Claire let the system work. Ryan was placed under investigation through internal channels related to his position. Lena was questioned separately. Once separated, they began doing what guilty people always do. They blamed each other. Lena claimed she had only made suggestions, that Ryan insisted, that she never imagined real harm. Ryan insisted he was manipulated, that he trusted someone who betrayed him. Their stories shifted each time new evidence surfaced. Claire did not attend these interrogations. She did not need to. Her role was not to punish. It was to remain standing. When the case reached formal proceedings, Claire appeared once, calm, composed, no anger in her voice, no bitterness in her posture. She described the facts as they happened: the pregnancy, the tea, the collapse, the lab results. She did not describe her pain. She did not accuse. That restraint was what unsettled the room. Because everyone could see she was not acting out of revenge. She was acting out of truth. When Ryan looked at her during the hearing, he expected rage, tears, something he could argue against. What he saw instead was distance. And that distance told him something terrifying. He had already lost her. Justice did not arrive with shouting or spectacle. It arrived quietly. And it did not need Claire to raise her voice. It only needed her to stop protecting him. The consequences came faster than Ryan Whitmore expected. Once the investigation moved forward, there was no room left for explanations or excuses. Evidence has no sympathy. It does not care how respectable someone once appeared or how many people admired them. Ryan was removed from duty pending formal charges, his access revoked, his title stripped away piece by piece. The uniform that once gave him identity became a reminder of everything he had lost. Lena Brooks did not fare better. When confronted with financial records and witness statements, her composure collapsed. The admiration she once used as currency turned into desperation. The careful mask she wore could not survive sustained scrutiny. The truth emerged in fragments, not heroic, not dramatic. Ugly. Ryan had compromised himself long before the poisoning. Small, unethical decisions justified as harmless shortcuts. Lena had used that knowledge to secure her position, each of them believing they were in control. Neither of them was. When the charges were announced, there was no audience, no applause, no sense of triumph. Just silence. Ryan sat alone when the decision was delivered. He did not argue. He did not protest. The weight of finality settled heavily on his shoulders. This was not a fall from grace. It was a collapse from illusion. Claire did not attend the announcement. She did not need to witness the downfall of someone who no longer existed in her life. She felt no satisfaction. Only a calm understanding that consequences eventually arrive for everyone. Not as punishment, but as correction. And once the fall was complete, there was nothing left to negotiate. The story had reached its turning point. What followed was no longer about them. It was about what Claire chose to carry forward. When everything finally stopped moving, Claire Whitmore was left with a choice. She could hold on to anger, replaying every betrayal and every lie, or she could decide what part of the story would follow her into the rest of her life. She chose carefully. Claire did not speak publicly about what happened. She did not give interviews or explanations. She allowed the facts to stand on their own and focused instead on rebuilding stability for herself and her son. She kept custody without conflict. She secured her independence quietly. The legal outcome gave her what she needed, but not what defined her. What defined her was restraint. Claire returned to work slowly but with intention. Using her background in psychology, she began supporting women navigating betrayal, separation, and loss of identity. Not as a savior, but as someone who understood the cost of silence. She did not tell her story unless it helped someone else tell theirs. At home, her world became smaller and steadier. Morning routines, late-night feedings, the weight of her son resting against her chest. That was what she chose to keep. Not the marriage. Not the anger. But the clarity that came from surviving something designed to break her. Claire did not rebuild her life to prove anything. She rebuilt it to protect her peace. And that peace became the foundation for everything that followed. People often misunderstand revenge. They imagine it as loud confrontations, public humiliation, or watching someone suffer the way you did. But real revenge rarely looks like that. Claire Whitmore learned this the hard way. Revenge was not exposing Ryan in anger. It was refusing to cover for him anymore. Revenge was not destroying Lena with words. It was letting truth strip away the mask she depended on. The real revenge was survival. It was waking up each morning no longer anxious, no longer waiting for the next betrayal. It was building a life where silence was no longer required and trust was no longer forced. Claire did not win because others lost. She won because she chose herself and her child over denial and fear. If you are listening to this and you recognize yourself in her story, remember this. Betrayal does not mean you are weak. It means you trusted someone who did not deserve it. Walking away is not failure. Staying silent to protect someone who harms you is. Sometimes the strongest response is not confrontation but clarity, not revenge but resolution, not shouting but stepping forward without them. If this story resonated with you, take a moment to reflect. What would peace look like in your life if you stopped protecting what was hurting you? If you found value in this story, please like the video, share it with someone who may need to hear it, and comment below, what would you have done in Claire's place? This is the art of revenge. And sometimes the greatest revenge is living well,